A new report tonight suggests that from the earliest days of Donald Trump's presidency, his administration was working hard to lift or ease U.S. sanctions against Russia, including the very sanctions that had been put in place in response to Russian interference in the U.S. election. Yahoo News chief investigative correspondent Michael Isikoff reporting that top Trump administration officials, almost as soon as they took office, tasked State Department staffers with developing proposals for the lifting of economic sanctions, the return of diplomatic compounds, and other steps to relieve tensions with Moscow. There was serious consideration by the White House to unilaterally rescind the sanctions, said Dan Fried, a veteran State Department official who has since retired. Fried said in the first few weeks of the administration he received several panicky calls from U.S. government officials who told him they had been directed to develop a sanctions-lifting package and imploring him, please, my God, can't you stop this? And joining me now, Michael Isikoff, chief investigative correspondent at Yahoo News. Michael, this is strikes me as a pretty big story because the question here in all of this, right, is if there was quid pro quo, if there was some sort of sense of collusion, what did the Russians want out of it? And we know they wanted the sanctions lifted, and here we have the Trump administration, it appears from your reporting, looking to lift them early on. How intent were they on that?
Well, yeah, exactly. Look, we've all been so focused on the meetings that took place during the transition and the questions about whether there was collusion on the campaign. But you're absolutely right. Policy is what mattered here. This is what the Russians were focused on. And if they had a preference in the election, it's because they had believed or hoped that the Trump administration would take steps to achieve what they wanted, which is the lifting of sanctions. Early in the very first weeks of the administration, even before Rex Tillerson was confirmed as Secretary of State, transition officials who moved into the 7th floor of the State Department tasked the Bureau of Europe and Eurasian Affairs with developing a menu of options to ease tensions with Russia that would include the easing of sanctions, return of those dachas that got closed by President Obama at the end of his administration. And what's so striking about it is that Bureau of Europe and Eurasian Affairs is the place in the State Department that had been pushing to impose these sanctions. Victoria Nuland, who was the Assistant Secretary in charge, had been one of the hawks in the Obama administration. And so the officials who got this directive felt very uneasy, and they began looking around for allies. Dan Fried, who'd been the U.S. coordinator for sanctions policy, was still there, and they reached out to him. Tom Malinowski, who had just stepped down as Assistant Secretary for Human Rights, they reached out to him as well, and they began an effort to block the administration from going too quickly in this arena.
Well, so what's interesting here is that when you look at the actual policy, right? So they essentially successfully defeated this initiative to the extent that it was something that they had their eyes on. We had this reporting from the Washington Post yesterday about the Trump administration moving to return those Russian compounds that you just mentioned that we just showed on air that had been confiscated as part of the sort of punitive measures after the hacking. So far, though, the policy has largely remained in place, even though the rhetoric has shifted. How do you account for that? Explain that.
Well, look what's happened here. First of all, in terms of what Fried and Malinowski were doing, they were going to the Hill. They went to allies on the Hill, Ben Cardin, John McCain, and there was legislation introduced on February 7th to codify, or that would require congressional approval for the lifting of sanctions. That was introduced. But just remember what happened a week later, February 13th. Mike Flynn resigns. He resigns because of the blow-up about his secret meetings with Kislyak and misrepresenting the fact that he was talking about easing of sanctions.
On this issue, right.
On this very issue. So it became politically toxic. They couldn't move nearly as quickly as they wanted because of the firestorm that had developed about all this. But I should point out, if you read the piece closely, I talked to a senior White House official today about this, making clear there is still an ongoing policy review about sanctions. Right. These options are still on the table.
All right, Michael Isikoff, great reporting, and thanks for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.